Hi there, my name is Kara. I am a nutritionist and intuitive eating counselor, and today's video is about how nutrition and intuitive eating work together. I will first go through the three main ways the dieting mentality can be expressed in terms of the types of eaters, and maybe you will relate to one of those. Then I'll go into how nutrition fits into the structure of intuitive eating. Maybe you've heard of intuitive eating as a way of eating where you eat when you're hungry and you stop when you're full and you eat whatever you want. So while this is absolutely true, there's so much more to it than that. There's a lot of nuance that you may not hear about if you just kind of read about it at a glance. So, and yes, you absolutely can and should eat whatever you want, but once you release the restriction and weight-focused mentality, this is going to end up looking pretty different than you might think right now. So one of the main objections to this way of eating, to intuitive eating, is how can it be healthy to eat whatever you want? Maybe you say, all I want and crave are sweets, and I never want vegetables. There's no way that can be healthy to eat in that way. And many people seek out intuitive eating and end up using it as the hunger fullness diet, i.e. I can only eat when I'm hungry and I have to stop when I'm full. And that ends up feeling really diety and restrictive and counterintuitive to what intuitive eating actually is. And this probably does look like all the sweets and no vegetables at first. This is a temporary phase. And so many people say, I've tried intuitive eating, I just gained weight, I felt like crap, it just doesn't work for me. I need some structure and rules to be healthy. So maybe it works for other people, but who naturally want healthy foods, but that's just not me. So this is how the anti-diet movement can end up being perceived as anti-nutrition, because people think it's, oh, I just eat whatever I want and all I want are sweets, so that can't be healthy. But this is really so far from the truth. One of the 10 principles of intuitive eating is called gentle nutrition, and it's typically covered by intuitive eating professionals last in the counseling process, and this is very much on purpose. So when we focus on nutrition too early in the process, it just gets construed into more food rules. This is because when you are finally done with dieting and ready for intuitive eating, the only way of thinking you have had in the past is the dieting mentality. This means a lot of mental shifts have to happen to create a new way of thinking that doesn't perceive nutrition information as food rules that you have to follow in order to be healthy. Because nutrition is really, again, so much more gentle and flexible than that. So let's go through the different types of the dieting mentality and how nutrition may be approached by each of them, and how we can apply nutrition information in a supportive, loving, easy way that doesn't feel like forcing yourself to drink a kale smoothie, because I promise you, you never have to do that. So the dieting mentality can be expressed in several ways. Maybe you are a careful eater. So a careful eater is one who is really vigilant about the food they put in their body, always checking food labels and ingredient lists. And no, it is not inherently wrong to be, checking the food labels, but the careful eater can't let go of guilt associated with eating the wrong ingredients or things that they have read or deemed as unhealthy or too high in fat or added sugar or whatever it is. So it's more than just caring about what they put in their bodies. It's taken to a level that they spend most of their waking hours thinking about this stuff and planning out their next meals and worrying about what they're eating. Because there is a fine line between being health conscious and dieting, and there's nothing wrong with being interested in the well-being of your body, but it becomes problematic when it crosses into black and white thinking, feeling like you are on or off the wagon with your eating. So when guilt and shame ensue when a health-related food rule is broken. So many times careful eaters are so strict with themselves on weekdays that they have to have sort of designated cheat days on the weekend or on vacation or other special circumstances. And this is an example of conditional eating, where I can only eat X because of Y circumstance. So for the careful eater, if they are given more nutrition information and guidelines at the beginning of their sort of intuitive eating food freedom journey, these instantly are going to become food rules. So as you can see, it's not super helpful to start with the nutrition. Then the second type we have is the professional dieter. This is someone who is always trying the latest, celebrity eating plan, reading the new diet book. They know the calories and portion sizes for every single food. They know all of the dieting sort of tricks, like how to suppress their hunger with things like gum or coffee or exercise. And the difference with the professional dieter is that all food choices are made for the purpose of losing weight, not necessarily for health or nutrition content of the ingredients of a food. So while nutrition information is still definitely important to the professional dieter, it's more important that something is low fat, low calorie, low carb. So if diets did what they said they did, i.e. easy sustainable weight loss, professional chronic dieters wouldn't exist. You would need to try one thing and you would be done. But we know that's not how it works. So when the professional dieter is given nutrition information, so if we started with that at the start of the intuitive eating process, it's still going to be viewed through the lens of calorie and macro counting. They might say, okay, so you're telling me vegetables are healthy, great, they're low calorie, I'll just fill up on those. So this is why for the professional dieter, starting with nutrition at the forefront of releasing that dieting mentality just isn't going to work. It is not going to be the most beneficial approach. Finally, we have the unconscious eater, and there are a few different types. So first we have the chaotic unconscious eater, and this is just that. They have a chaotic, haphazard eating schedule, kind of shoving food in whenever they have 2 seconds to eat, a lot of eating in the car and on the go, eating whatever's available, whether it's takeout vending machines, maybe the occasional home cooked meal, which typically is going to feel like a chore because they are so busy. They may love cooking, but they just don't have the time for it. It's just not a priority. So nutrition can definitely be important or of interest to the chaotic unconscious eater, but they're typically just too busy to make it a priority for most meals. For this type of person, without addressing the chaotic eating style, focusing on the nutrition education off the bat isn't going to help. It's just going to add more stress. Then we have the refuse not unconscious eater. So this is someone who, if food is laying around in the office, at a social event, or just on the kitchen counter, whether they are hungry or full or neutral, they'll eat it because it's there, not really paying attention to if they are even enjoying it or if it's satisfying or feeling good in their body. So again, for this type of unconscious eater, nutrition isn't at the forefront of their mind. Maybe they have an interest in it, but because it's more unconscious eating, it's not beneficial to add it in, nutrition first. Then we have the zero waste unconscious eater. So this is really typical in college years when money is tight, after years of dieting, when food was seen as something that could be sort of taken away at any time. So it was seen as scarce, or someone who really had food insecurity in the past and didn't always have food available. So it's someone who just wants to get kind of the most food possible. They don't want to waste anything and very uncomfortable throwing food away. If there has been food insecurity in the past, this can definitely cause some lasting effects of that trauma, whether it was in childhood or more recently later in life. So in this situation, and for a lot of others that I work with, I will recommend also working with a therapist to work through some of those, the lasting effects of that experience. Then we have the emotional unconscious eater who uses food to cope with uncomfortable emotions like stress, anger, loneliness. So for emotional eating, which by the way has pros and cons, it is a tool and sometimes it is the only tool available to us in a certain time of our lives. And I'll do a whole video on this because emotional eating is something that really brings a lot of deep feelings of shame, and it is not something to feel shameful about. I also have a free emotional eating guide, which I will put the link for in the description of this video. So for the emotional unconscious eater, the emotional eating is a symptom. It is not the problem. So focusing on the high level stuff like nutrition, nutritional value of the food eaten isn't going to help at all. It doesn't look at any of the underlying root causes of that type of eating. For the unconscious eater of any type, a diet might seem like the solution. They may say, okay, this is something I can focus on. I can finally be in control of my eating. I can be more mindful of my eating. It can offer a lot of hope, like diets always do. But we know how they backfire and how this turns out. It's short-lived. It results in feeling like a failure when the diet doesn't stick. So I've explained why nutrition is not the initial priority of intuitive eating. So diet culture has co-opted the health focus to mean weight focus. So for most of us living in this very thin, obsessed culture, nutrition can initially be seen as diety. So we have to do some mental rewiring before we can focus on nutrition and have it be like easy and supportive and neutral. So how does nutrition fit into intuitive eating? So as I said in the beginning of this video, nutrition is applied in the intuitive eating structure as gentle nutrition, and I love this descriptor. So what is gentle nutrition? What do we mean by that? So gentle nutrition takes a step back and looks at the big picture of eating habits over time and how nutrition sort of fits into the big picture of health, because one of the most important things I've learned as a nutrition professional is that nutrition is not always the most important thing. Of course, it is very important, but if we don't look at the whole picture, a seemingly sort of perfect diet is not going to lead to good health if other areas are totally unaligned or overlooked. And in every phase of life, nutrition isn't going to always be your number one priority, and that's okay. You can still be very healthy overall. So wellness influencers and health gurus will have you believe that individual foods are the most important thing to focus on. So like superfoods and things like that. But there are three things that are actually more important. One, are you eating enough? Two, are you eating a balance of all the macronutrients, so fat, protein, and carbs? And are you eating a variety of foods? So number one, are you eating enough? If you are chronically under eating, no matter how many kale smoothies you have, you are going to physically and mentally feel those deficiencies. It puts your body in a state of stress to not be eating enough for your body. You'll have a lot of food thoughts and food preoccupation. So I'll say it again. The most important aspect of nutrition is, are you eating enough? Then, are you eating a balance of macronutrients? So again, our protein, carbs, and fat. We need all three of them for different reasons, which I will go to in a more nutrition-focused video. So if you are lacking in any of the three, you will experience some sort of health problem, either physical or mental or both. So greatly reducing any of the three, which is typically carbs and fat for most diets, is definitely going to have consequences. So we need to make sure we're having a balance of the three. Then, are you eating a variety of foods? This not only keeps food interesting, but it also provides the necessary range of nutrients for you. So as you can see, gentle nutrition is about the big picture. It's much less on individual foods, but focusing on your relationship with food first is essential. So gentle nutrition with a positive relationship with food is what is going to lead to true health and happiness, really. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment on this video and I will get back to you. Bye now.